Yeah, so my first interaction with Blast would have been as a player in 2015, and that was with Houston. And yeah, I didn't like it, to be honest. Like as a player, like I wasn't really explained to me like what the value was, like why are we using it. So I mean, I was a late round draft pick, and having to wear this sensor, I was afraid. I was like, what is this gonna tell them, and am I gonna be out of a job? That was kind of the way I thought about it, which I'm glad that I kind of did, because I think that helps me now. I can kind of assume that players think the same way. So yeah, my first experience with Blast was as a player and not a coach, and that was honestly my mindset with it.
Awesome. Appreciate the answer. I feel comfortable saying that I am the worst player in this group right now by far. So I don't want to hear you guys saying you didn't have any success. I know you're being modest, but you guys could swing it a little bit. So just making
Could
sure.
you talk a little bit about the 2016 Home Run Derby, Gary?
Yeah, humble brag. You hit a lot of homers in college.
Yeah. Yeah. I was guessing right a lot would be what I don't think it was more of a swing thing, as I was a lucky guesser that year for some reason, and they somehow decided to throw me a lot of cookies for whatever reason. I wasn't in the SEC, Bob, so I didn't see 97.
I wasn't saying anything.
No, I know you want to debate me to get you to tell me when we played in the SEC, which is fine.
Do whatever.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get there. Great answers, though. I was the same way. I did use Blast. It was actually at the Home Run Derby where it was on my bat for the first time, and I was like, what the heck is this? Why are you guys like doing this? Is this going to tell you how fast I swing? And yeah, similar experience. So cool to hear you guys share that. How do you think actually like tracking the data, now that you know Blast, you understand it, you guys use it, like how does actually tracking the data help your players? Bob first.
Yeah, I think
today.
it helps a lot.
You're in the one spot.
No, I think it helps a ton. I think giving them something objective, and again, kind of circling back to how we all answered the first question, they need to be educated on like what it is that's being tracked, and if that communication link isn't there, I just remember like me as a player, like I was not going to be very receptive. So I think if it's something that is clearly communicated and almost like a goal setting, something that they can work towards, I think it's huge. It just adds another layer. So that's something that I really like doing. It's just like the goal setting within the app. If there's a metric, if there's something that you deem is important as a milestone, that's what I like doing. Kind of working towards that.
What did you need as a player if you could go back now with Blast just to kind of go there? What would you put as a milestone for yourself?
Oh my gosh. So like every metric that Blast collects,
I don't know if we have time for this question.
Needed to go up. Oh gosh. That's a good question. I got to go back and look at video. It looks like I swing underwater, like going back and watching. So I guess bat speed would have been a red flag.
Love it. Moving like through like tracking, I know you mentioned like workload and actually monitoring, and communication seems to come up as a big thing. What is there a good balance of like how much you communicate this to the player? Bobby, you mentioned like if it was communicated better to you, you'd have buy-in. Like, is it something you see is really important on the front end, like throughout the experience? What kind of, can you touch on the communication aspect of it?
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think so. I was frustrated that I wasn't communicated with at all, but I definitely think that the other end of the spectrum is an issue too, if it's communicated too much. Because I mean, we're all baseball players here. Obviously, there's a wide range of intellectual capacity, I guess, in the game. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like they have to be able to hit. They have to be able to like on field click. So if I'm communicating numbers and metrics that doesn't resonate with a guy, I think that can definitely be counterproductive. And the last thing you want anyone doing is, I mean, thinking about their blast metrics in the box. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, I definitely think that it's a happy balance between zero communication and overloading a guy.
Yeah. So are you just like stay here because that's really good. I like that. Are you altering the way you communicate with like the same information? So one guy you'll say like, hey, your on-plane efficiency is 74 and the other guy it's like stay in the zone longer, like going just even a little bit deeper than that?
Yeah,
like
that's a really good question. So yeah, I think that you can give everyone kind of a surface level, explaining metrics at a surface level, almost like a classroom session or whatever. And then I think you have feel for the players you work with. Like I've worked with an Ivy League dude. Like that dude could grasp way better than I could. So that a guy like that, where I know the intellectual, capacity, you can maybe push a little forward. But again, you don't need to chalk just to sound smart. They need to get something out of it. So I don't think you just explain the metrics to explain the metrics. I think there has to be kind of a clear goal in sight. That's a good question, though. Yeah, there's definitely a happy balance between just overloading a guy, underloading a guy in terms of just the information. Yeah, that's a loaded question. I guess the balance is I think there has to be a balance. Like what you said to me just kind of jumped out, like the machine, hitting off the machine. I mean, there's several players that don't like doing it, which is fine, but a lot of those guys, like, that's what they really need to do. And maybe there's a reason they don't like doing it, is because they struggle at it. So I think, yeah, that kind of balance of doing what feels good, what feels comfortable, because at the end of the day, 7 o'clock at night, you have to hit, or in our case, I guess, 12 o'clock in the Florida sun and 100-degree heat. But whenever game time is for the guys, yeah, they have to be able to hit. I think in the lower level, in terms of I'm okay with ripping the Band-Aid off and getting guys uncomfortable as 18, 19-year-olds. I think personally I would err more on that side. Yeah, no, that was all good. I think how I look at it is, and I think Buns kind of got the ball rolling in terms of like looking to see guys' metrics or whatever, like if they're having success in a certain environment. I think that's a really good way to go about it, because I mean it just gives you a clue. Okay, well, why are they succeeding in this environment versus this one? He hit 10 out of 10 balls hard off the tee and 1 out of 10 balls off of a machine. Why? Well, the machine's significantly harder. Like, it could be like simply stupid like that, but obviously the closer we get to the center, it gets a little fuzzier. And so, yeah, I like that in terms of looking at why are they succeeding in one environment? Is that a swing characteristic? Is that why they're doing it? Is the pitcher just better? Or if you want to get into game stuff, is the pitcher, the metrics on his ball doing something that doesn't really cater to his swing? Like, whatever. There's a ton of different ways to go in that respect. Yeah, I totally disagree with both of them and think they're way off base. Yeah, obviously the game data is obviously king. Like that's what it all comes down to. I think if you could kind of circle back to the last question, like a guy maybe having success in a different environment but not game environment, I think that's kind of a fun little project to tackle. Why are they succeeding, and why can they not take a BP swing to the game or whatever? I think is something cool to look at. But yeah, I think the in-game data is probably something that should be prioritized over practice data. And to Joey's point, I don't think, I think there has to be a feel aspect in terms of the guy that's on a hot streak, that maybe his metrics are trending the wrong way in your estimation. We all love, using blast, using tech, but is it, it's not really the holy grail. It's just a piece of the puzzle. So I think that's very important to never lose sight of. I think that you almost, the conversation that you have with the player in that situation, like, has to be spun as a positive, because it is. Like, you are having a really, really good season of professional baseball despite this. Like, so even if nothing changes, like, you're still really, really good. And so, yeah, like a small tweak to your point. Obviously I would certainly hope that their end goal isn't playing in the Gulf Coast League, that they have loftier expectations than that. But I think you spin it as a positive. Like, dude, you are so good and you're going to continue to be good. We pivot something very small here. Like, watch out. So I think the tone of the message definitely needs to be a positive one versus a negative, your X, Y, and Z isn't what it needs to be.